Donald Trump's presidency is imploding under the weight of its own greed and cruelty. While millions of Americans are skipping meals, he's still partying like a Gilded Age monarch, and the data shows the country has finally had enough. His approval rating has cratered to a historic low, and even Republican governors are abandoning basic compassion to protect his crumbling political image. Let's unpack the numbers, the lies, and the shocking truth about just how far the MAGA movement has fallen. 42 million Americans are at risk of losing their food benefits as the government shutdown stretches toward record length. A federal judge has ordered the Trump administration to continue funding the SNAP program, and yet Trump's team responded by saying they'd only partially comply. That means families are skipping groceries while billionaires get tax breaks. And Republican governors, they're lining up behind Trump's cruelty.
This is an important program for individuals that need it, and it's like every other one. There is so much fraud and abuse in these programs that it runs the risk of not having the funds there to help those that really need it.
That's the GOP's new talking point: call struggling families fraudulent instead of helping them survive. Meanwhile, Democratic lawmakers are sounding the alarm, demanding their governors use rainy day funds to stop mass hunger. But Republican leaders are ignoring them, proudly sitting on billions instead of saving their citizens.
The governor has touted the billions of dollars in savings that we have, and yet will not use a single dollar to help his constituents. He is patting himself on the back for not being able to put another cent into our rainy day funds because they are so full, all while leaving the stomachs of Oklahomans empty.
And we know we have this budget stabilization fund, which is called the RFD, the rainy day fund, in there sitting to be tapped and used. And we can use it and we should use it. And we have a bill that would do exactly that. So to kind of take us around this, using bureaucracy, using red tape, they have absolutely no problem cutting through that red tape when they want to give hundreds of millions of dollars to billionaires. But for some reason, it's really hard to get through a little bit of red tape in order to feed hungry families.
That's it. Republicans will move heaven and earth to protect billionaires. But when it comes to feeding children, suddenly they can't cut through the red tape. The consequences of this cruelty are finally showing up in the numbers. Trump's approval rating has sunk to 37%, the lowest of his presidency, with 63% disapproving, a new all-time high.
The approval rating right now, John, sits at 37%. That is a low mark in this term for Donald Trump. His disapproval is at 63%. That's a high mark for his entire time as president, first and second term combined. I will say Democrats and independents fleeing him, of course. Republicans still with him, which is why we'll see him doing these tele-rallies tonight for the Republican candidates for governor. Take a look over the course of this year. You'll see down here, mid-February, late February, he was at 47-48% approval. That was a honeymoon period after the election. He's now been steadily going down all year long. Why? One of the reasons why, it seems, is that the American people think he's gone too far when using presidential power. 61% say so, way up from February. And deporting undocumented immigrants, 57% of Americans in this poll, John, say that he has gone too far in doing that. And in fact, he said just the opposite on 60 Minutes last night.
You know, David, a great man called this poll sort of a mood ring for the country. And it does seem that voters are saying they're in a pretty bad mood.
They are. It's a pretty sour American electorate out there. 32% of Americans say things are going well in the country, John. 68% say they're going badly. This is clearly driven in large part by the economy, which is by far and away the most important issue for Americans. 47% say economy, cost of living, top issue. 26% say state of democracy. 10% say immigration. 7%, crime and safety. And so what does that mean in terms of Trump's policies affecting the U.S. economy? Well, 61% of Americans say they've worsened the American economy. Only 27% say Trump's policies have improved the economy, John.
That 61% is a tough number for Republicans facing election tomorrow, and certainly for the president as he tries to improve his position heading into the midterms next year.
So let's break that down. 61% of Americans think Trump made the economy worse. Only 27% believe he improved it. And most voters now say he's abused his power and taken the presidency too far. That's not a president in control. That's a man the country no longer trusts. These poll numbers aren't just bad. They're a 5-alarm warning for the Republican Party. When a president drags his approval down into the 30s, he doesn't just lose elections. He pulls every member of his party off the cliff with him. That's why Democrats can't just criticize Trump. They need to offer a vision. The voters aren't asking for slogans. They're asking for relief. And that starts with 3 simple promises. End Trump's failing tariffs, tax the billionaires who profited from his chaos, raise the minimum wage so work actually pays the bills. Those are real populist solutions that cut through the noise, and they poll incredibly well even in red states. If Trump's presidency has taught us anything, it's that cruelty is not strength, and corruption is not competence. His legacy is record hunger, a broken economy, and a public that's ready to move on. The question now isn't whether Trump will fall, it's whether Democrats will be ready to lead when he does. So if you believe in a government that feeds its people, protects its workers, and restores dignity to public service, then now's the time to act. Follow the channel, turn on notifications, and tell us in the comments, should Democrats make economic justice their top message heading into 2026? Because that's how we win back America, by standing up for everyone Trump left behind.